Hey guys, what's going on? So today we have my top 10 albums of 2018. So yeah, in the background I'm playing Massacre with From Beyond. I'm really enjoying the sound lately. So yeah. So anyways, for this list I do have one honorable mention, and that's the new Pig Destroyer album, Head Cage. I enjoyed it quite a bit. I do think it's definitely Pig Destroyer's weakest album, but it was still a very enjoyable album, but I didn't like it enough for it to fit on the list. There are definitely a lot of releases this year that I wanted to listen to that I never really got around to. Like, I've been meaning to listen to that Tomb Mold album everyone's been talking about, and I never got around to it. I still need to listen to it. Like, I have like a playlist of albums I intend on listening to, and that's definitely in there, so I need to get to that at some point, even though I'm very late to the party. I also never listened to the new Cancer album, which I meant to do. The new Archgoat, I never really got around to checking out, but I kept up for like the first, around like the middle of the year. I kept up with 2018 releases pretty well, and then towards the end I kind of started to, I don't know, get distracted. But anyways, I've got a pretty solid list of some good shit. So number 10, we've got Watain with Trident Wolf Eclipse. One of the few albums on this list that I actually have a physical copy of. I thought this was a pretty solid album from Watain. It's basically everything that I want from Watain. Just really fun, kind of stereotypical black metal. Kind of evil sounding, a little cheesy at sometimes, but not really bad. It's really simple black metal. It's like Dissection, but not quite as melodic, of course. If you know Watain, you know what they sound like. And it's just what Watain sounds like, honestly. I actually have a poster that came with the CD back there, so yeah. But yeah, I thought it was a thoroughly enjoyable black metal album, so Watain. It's Trident Wolf Eclipse is number 10. Number 9, we have Ataraxy with Where All Hope Fades. I believe this was on Dark Descent Records, and fucking, they just killed it this year with death metal releases. From what I remember, this was like a really doomy death metal album. There's a lot of slower, more atmospheric parts that make it very interesting. The vocals are kind of unique sounding. They have this really weird, like, I don't know how to describe it. They just have a very weird tone to them, the guy's voice. But you got some really good vocals. I really love the production. Just really enjoyable, slower death metal. Which that's been kind of popular within death metal lately, and like with underground shit. And honestly, I don't mind at all. I think it's some really great shit. So yeah, number 9 is Ataraxy with Where All Hope Fades. So yeah, number 8, we've got the new Deicide album with Overtures of Blasphemy. I thought this is probably one of the best Deicide albums to come out since Servants of the Light. I'm not sure if it's the best since then, but it's one of the best. This is a really great album, honestly. The more I listened to it, the more I enjoyed it. There's not a whole lot of extremely memorable songs in there, but the album as a whole just feels very good to listen to. Just there's some really great riffs. Glenn Benton, he mixes up his vocals a little more than usual, which is nice. But it's basically everything that you'd want from Deicide. The production's really great. And yeah, it's just a really great album. I don't know, it's just some of the most fun death metal I've heard all year, but there's definitely better death metal that's coming up later on this list. But yeah, it's just really nice to hear a new album from Deicide that's actually worth listening to. So yeah, number 8 is Deicide with Overtures of Blasphemy. Number 7 is another album from a more classic death metal band, and that's At the Gates with, fuck, I can't even read my own writing, To Drink from the Night Itself. This was basically At the Gates doing what they do best, which is great, very melancholic, melodic death metal. They're basically continuing what they did on Slaughter of the Soul, but there's even more hooky riffs, arguably on them. I'm not saying it's a better album than Slaughter of the Soul necessarily, but this album has even more hooky riffs than Slaughter of the Soul, which I thought was very interesting. This is just a really fucking solid album. Just so many great melodies. They are a little bit recycled from their older material, honestly, but that doesn't make them bad in any way at all. I mean, it's not like they've overused these, because this is like only their... I know they had At War with Reality, which I actually never really listened to, but I thought this was definitely a very good album from At the Gates, so my favorite melodic death metal album of 2018, I'd say. Alright, so that was number, what, 7? Yeah. So number 6, we have the new Skinless album, Savagery. I thought this was a really great album from Skinless, and they kind of mixed up their sound a little bit. One of the things that I really like about Skinless is that over their career, they've kind of changed their sound a little bit with each album, which is nice for a brutal death metal band. Like, if you listen to their first album, which is my favorite, Reaction Towards Evil, it's really chunky, really groovy, catchy, brutal death metal. And then they started to get a little bit faster, a little bit less focused on breakdowns, like on albums like Trample the Weak, Hurl the Dead. They focused a lot more on having good riffs and stuff like that, and they got cleaner production and stuff. On this album, they actually focused a lot on like adding a little bit of melody, which was very unique for brutal death metal. That's fucking rare. I thought this was just really great, honestly. It was a really fun album from Skinless, and they just have a really good discography, and this was just another solid output from them. So yeah, this was a very enjoyable album that I listened to a couple of times throughout the year, and I thought it was pretty good. But yeah, so that's Skinless with Savagery. Don't really have much to say. Next album we've got on this list is Marduk with Victoria. I don't know why this album got bashed a little bit. I thought it was an excellent album, honestly. It's one of the best albums Marduk has done in the past like 10 years or so. I really like the intro track Werewolf, like with a really punky riff and stuff like that. This is a really great album. It's everything that I want from Marduk. Really fast, aggressive, hateful black metal. That's basically what it is, and it's awesome. It's just Marduk doing what Marduk does best, and that's why I thought it was a really great album. I don't really have much to say. If you know Marduk, you know what you're in for. Just some really fast fucking black metal, a lot of blast beats and stuff. Some people accuse it of being blasturbation, and it kind of is, but the album is pretty short. Most of their albums are around like half an hour, so it doesn't really matter because it never really gets old within the span of the album. I will say there were a few slower parts on this album which were actually pretty nice that mixed it up a little bit and made the album go by a little faster, actually, because it was a little less repetitive than some of their other material. But yeah, great output, and definitely one of the better albums in Marduk's catalog, and they have a pretty big discography from what I remember. But yeah, so Marduk with Victoria. So yeah, number 4, we've got Ingested with The Level Above Human. Now honestly, I'm not too crazy about slamming deathcore. I prefer regular brutal death metal or some slam death metal, especially the older shit from like the late 90s and early 2000s. But fucking, like, I'm not crazy about bands like Vulvodynia or like, what's that band? Within Destruction. But Ingested is fucking awesome. And this is a great album. It's not quite as slam influenced as some of their older stuff, like their debut album. That's probably their best album, but this one was really fucking good. Very clean production, I will say, but that works for the style that they're doing. If you're an old school death metal purist, you'll hate this album, because there's definitely a lot of core influences in it, but really catchy, very memorable riffs. Like, there's one song that was called like Invidious or something. That was one of the best death metal songs of 2018 in general. It was just a really great song. Killer riffs, awesome vocals, just has a badass feel to it. And yeah, this was one of my favorite death metal albums of the year. So yeah, number 4 is Ingested with The Level Above Human. So number 3, we've got my favorite black metal album of the year, and from one of my favorite black metal bands, and that's Shining with Vargatan Flock. This was the first album I actually listened to the first album that came out in 2018 that I listened to in 2018. And this was a fantastic album, honestly. Like, the atmosphere was perfect, and Shining they've never made a bad album in my opinion. They have a great discography, but I feel like after Homestead they started to go slightly downhill. Still good albums, but not quite as good. And this album, it felt like Homestead Part 2 in my opinion. It was a great album. There's still riffs that I can think of in my head, like, they're pretty fucking memorable. Just really great album. The flow of the album is fantastic. There's some really interesting stuff that Shining hasn't done before, like melodically, that I thought was very interesting. Overall, this was just a fantastic album, and Shining just never really disappoints. I've listened to their entire discography now, except for like their second album. For some reason I can't find that one on YouTube, I don't know why. But yeah. Yeah, the new Shining, I mean, if you know who Shining is, great experimental kinda, like, they're like DSBM. They're pretty much the first DSBM band in my opinion, but they experiment with like some progressive shit, which is cool. Number 2, we've got the new Torture Rack album. I actually don't have much to say for this, which is weird because it's higher on this list, but just really simple but fun death metal, very catchy, very old school sounding, very caveman like, very simple, akin to like, you know, shit like Old Cannibal Corpse, maybe Suffocation or some Deicide, stuff like that. Really simple death metal, but really fucking awesome. And just, it really never gets old. Like, I never got tired of this album, and I've listened to this one a lot. But yeah, I don't have much to say, so Torture Rack with Malefic Humiliation. So my number 1 had to be, I'm sure this is on most people's lists, and from what I've seen, this is on most people's lists, because this was just a good fucking album. And that's Skeletal Remains with Devouring Mortality. The second I heard this became my favorite album of the year. It's fantastic. Old school style death metal. Just really great riffs, very memorable songs. Mixes elements of tons of bands, but makes it sound slightly original, but with a very old school tinge to it. You've got elements of Morbid Angel, Pestilence, a little bit of Obituary, maybe a little bit of Old Death. This is a fantastic album, honestly. If you like old school death metal, you'll love this album. It does have some very clean production, but it doesn't sound like a modern death metal album at all. It has a very old school, early 90s kind of sound to it. It even has Dan Seagrave artwork and everything, which is something that I love. I just love that style of death metal. And yeah, this album feels like it was like almost tailor-made for my taste in old school death metal, because it's a fantastic album. And I would give it, when I reviewed it, I don't remember what I gave it, but at this point I think I'd give it a 10 out of 10. It's just grown on me the more I've listened to it. And yeah, it's a fantastic album. I mean, if you like old school death metal with really, really good songwriting and really good just flow to the album, and not a single bad track on the album, listen to Skeletal Remains, his new release, Devouring Mortality. But that's it for my list. Maybe you can tell me some of your favorite releases of 2018 in the comments. So yeah, these are my top 10 favorite extreme metal albums of 2018. So that's it for this video, though. I hope you guys enjoyed. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe, and I'll see you guys later.